and want the kids to relive that trauma. But the main thing here is bad people who did bad things will go to prison. It is just a question right now, for how long? So we'll stay tuned for that, but especially if you were someone that tracked this story, what are your thoughts now seeing it come to this conclusion? And then we need to talk about not only how many people are about to lose their jobs over the next few years, but how we are so close to Pandora's box being completely opened and not really knowing what the fuck is real anymore. And that's because over the last few years, and especially the last few months, and even now the last few weeks, we've seen more and more of what AI can do. With the most recent example being OpenAI showcasing Sora last week, which if you don't know is where you just write in plain text, like a movie trailer featuring the adventures of the 30-year-old spaceman wearing a red wool knitted motorcycle helmet, blue sky, salt desert, cinematic style, shot on 35mm film, vivid colors. And it gives you exactly what you've been watching while I was reading that prompt. And that being just one of the numerous examples OpenAI posted. Beautiful snowy Tokyo City, several giant woolly mammoths. The animated scene features a close-up of a short fluffy monster. And the internet reacted in one of two ways, sometimes both. Some going, holy shit, this is amazing. And others going, oh my God, please God, no. Not only because this could potentially replace countless jobs, but also because so much of this looks amazing. Can you imagine how much worse the disinformation problem will get? Because that is a problem that already exists with the technology where it is now. Right? In addition to people just sharing fake tech stories and photoshopped images and people whose voices have been duped by AI, but now convincing video is getting thrown into the mix. And while some have accused OpenAI of just cherry picking the videos that ended up looking the best, and that's totally possible, but every video doesn't need to be a home run for the ones that actually do work to be effective, to be convincing. Hell, while Sora isn't available to the public yet, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, when he was responding to Mr. Beast, was like, hey, I'll generate something for you. Name it. Mr. Beast responds, a monkey playing chess in a park, and boom, there it is. Also, why does the monkey remind me of Ash Ketchum? Though notably, like if you pay attention to that video, that's for some reason a 7x7 chessboard. So not perfect, but leaps and bounds past where I think a lot of people thought we were right now. And again, it bears repeating every time we talk about this sort of news. This is the worst the AI and the technology will be ever again. And so I have parts of my brain competing with each other right now because I'm both excited anytime technology like lowers the barrier of entry to do really cool, beautiful shit. I think there are going to be a lot of jobs and situations where AI, with people that know how to competently use it, they're going to be able to do next level things. But I'm also horrified because, as we've seen with other emerging technologies, bad actors will jump on this shit fast. And I really don't think we are ready for that. What do we do in a world where we don't know what's real anymore? It already takes a lot of effort because there are so many bad actors out there. And can there actually be any sort of safeguard that keeps things on the rails? And then also, while we're talking about AI, we should talk about this Air Canada AI lawsuit, because it hits on a problem with AI that we are currently dealing with. Because this situation starts with Jake Moffat from British Columbia going on Air Canada's website, booking tickets to Ontario for his grandmother's funeral. And while booking the tickets, he was using the website's customer service AI chatbot, and he asked about the airline's bereavement policy, with the chatbot telling him that he would just have to file a claim within 90 days after booking the tickets, and the airline would give him some of his money back. And so Jake bought the next day ticket for about $600, and a few days later spent another $600 on a return ticket, all while fully expecting to get some of that money back. But when Jake went to get that discount after returning home, Air Canada refused, saying, hey, the chatbot actually misinformed you, and you can only actually receive a bereavement discount if the request was submitted before the flight. To which Jake responded, cool story, no, with Jake filing a claim with the Canadian tribunal, where very notably the airline then argued that the AI chatbot was a separate legal entity, and saying they should then not be held liable for the information that it provided. Never mind the fact that the chatbot is on their website to help their customers with questions about their policies. And so the tribunal didn't buy it, ruling instead in Jake's favor, and one member saying, while a chatbot has an interactive component, it is still just a part of Air Canada's website. It should be obvious to Air Canada that it is responsible for all the information on its website. It makes no difference whether the information comes from a static page or a chatbot. And this is a very big deal because many companies have added AI-powered chatbots to their websites in order to offer faster service to their customers. So it is very likely that this ruling is going to have some serious ripple effects in terms of how courts determine accountability when these things go wrong. But then also the issue of AI chatbots, it's getting even bigger because it's not just limited to the corporate space. We've actually been seeing major content creators battling a similar problem, with, for example, massive tech YouTuber Marquez Brownlee recently sharing screenshots of a chat with a YouTuber AI chatbot by Agent Gold, which notably gives people the option to chat with a bunch of high-profile YouTubers and content creators. People like Marquez, Mr. Beast, Joe Rogan, and Cody Co, just to name a few, with Marquez sharing the screenshots and X and saying, fun fact, there's a random AI company parading around an AI chatbot to chat with a YouTuber, and it is so incredibly bad. Just spews lies. They also never got permission to use my likeness, and I suspect suspect several others on the list were never even asked. Avoid this trash. And actually, in his interaction with the chatbot, Marquez asked if the AI had received permission from the real Marquez to use his likeness for their site. And the AI actually said yes, which outright is not true, according to Marquez. He even asked the chatbot if it was the real him. And again, the AI said yes, despite obviously that not being the case. And seemingly, this has gotten back to Agent Gold because they have since changed their chat with a YouTuber to chat with a YouTuber superfan, with the AI just saying they've watched all of this or that creator's video, so ask them anything, with notably Marquez no longer on the list of options. And so I think as we see the rise of all these AI things, like there's going to be no shortage of sketchy companies and sketchy people that take advantage of it. And then, jumping back to the situation around Air Canada, I also think that over the next 5-10 years, there's going to be no shortage of lawsuits, with companies likely more focused on what AI can do for them rather than how and what happens when it fails them, because they're the ones implementing it, so they should, in theory, be held responsible. And then, frozen IVF embryos are legally considered children. That is what the Alabama Supreme Court just ruled in a landmark first-of-its-kind decision. And this could have huge, sweeping implications, not just for the residents of the state, but for hundreds of thousands of Americans across the country who desperately want to start a family and rely on these treatments. Because an important thing to know is that this ruling stems from wrongful death lawsuits, with them alleging that a patient broke into a fertility clinic and accidentally dropped other couples' frozen embryos, destroying them. And as a part of those challenges, the plaintiffs claimed that the clinic had violated Alabama's Wrongful Death of a Minor Act. But there, a circuit court judge struck that down, ruling that a frozen embryo isn't considered a minor child under the law because it hadn't been transferred to the uterus, and arguing that the state Supreme Court and the state legislature had a clear pattern of using that qualification specifically to define unborn or minor children. But the state Supreme Court then said, cool story, no, with them ruling that the 1872 Wrongful Death of a Minor Act and the state's constitution don't draw that distinction, and actually saying that embryos have the same protections as all other children under the law, plus adding that this is especially true in places like Alabama, where voters adopted a constitutional amendment directly aimed at stopping courts from excluding unborn life from legal protection, with that seemingly in reference to a 2018 ballot measure that gave fetuses full personhood rights. So notably, that amendment did not mention frozen embryos. But regardless, the majority of justices here argue that they had a duty to protect unborn life without exception, with them frequently citing the Alabama Constitution and Christian faith. Right? God is mentioned numerous times in the ruling, especially with Chief Justice Tom Parker, who drew heavily from the Bible in a concurring opinion that reads like a straight-up sermon from a pastor. With all that, him arguing that the people of Alabama have adopted a theologically based view of the sanctity of life, and adding, human life cannot be wrongfully destroyed without incurring the wrath of a holy God who views the destruction of his image as an affront to himself. Even before birth, all human beings bear the image of God, and their lives cannot be destroyed without effacing his glory. Which again, very big thing here, this is not his personal comments, this is his legal opinion. And that opinion has drawn a lot of criticism from reproductive rights advocates who say that his personal religious beliefs could be influencing his decision, and saying that is especially concerning because the decision could have a massive impact. Right? The ruling here is exceptionally vague on a number of fronts, and so there are a ton of concerns about what this means in practice, and particularly when it comes to the storage of embryos. Or when someone undergoes IVF, there are multiple embryos that are made, but not all are used, with the unused ones kept frozen in storage. But now you have the Alabama Supreme Court saying those embryos are in fact people with the same rights and protections as children. And so there are major concerns about what happens to those frozen embryos. So with that, some outlets explaining this ruling raises questions about what happens to those unused embryos in storage, whether authorities could order them to be implanted in unwilling parents or bring child abuse charges. And what happens if a doctor implants embryos that fail to develop? So you have experts saying a number of things, saying this ruling could make IVF way more expensive or just force fertility clinics to shut down and doctors to leave the state entirely, or because they could actually be held liable for homicide charges just for getting rid of extra embryos. And that's even with the approval of the couple who made it. And the same could be true if there's an accident that damages an embryo and potentially even miscarriages, because there are a ton of different possibilities here. We're talking about a state that already accounts for almost half of all pregnancy-related criminal cases across the entire country. And again, this could extend beyond Alabama and, in particular, the 11 states that define personhood as beginning at fertilization. With Dana Sussman, the Deputy Executive Director of Pregnancy Justice, explaining, this is a natural extension of the march toward fetal personhood. You only need one state to be the first out of the gate, and then the next one will feel less radical. This is a cause of great concern for anyone that cares about people's reproductive rights and abortion care. And I mean, the impact here could be very, very far-reaching, because according to the CDC, nearly 100,000 babies are born via IVF every year. And it's been estimated that right now there are between 600,000 to 1 million embryos in storage nationwide. And get this, there are estimates saying that about 21% of them are abandoned. And so in addition to all those other concerns, if you're in a state affected like this, which right now is Alabama, if you own one of those clinics, what do you do? Like, even though they have a contract saying they can destroy them, do they not? Because that would be considered homicide. And also, if we're considering the embryos people or children, are there people out there that you could charge with abandoning a child? And I mean, it all just seems like a crazy, stupid mess. That is kind of the state of things. So while we see what the hell this is going to look like moving forward, of course, I'd love to know your thoughts in those comments down below. And then, for any of you focused on getting your business off the ground, creating a place to share your homemade goods, or even a personal blog, I got a great solution for you. And it comes from, and I want to thank the fantastic sponsor of today's show, Squarespace. Because, I've been partnering with Squarespace for years now, And I have to say, it is just so easy. There's nothing to install, patch, or update ever. Creating a beautiful website with Squarespace's Fluid Engine is so easy. You just drag things where you like, no coding necessary. And if you need a starting point, Squarespace has a bunch of great professional templates. Plus, with Squarespace, you get access to all their marketing tools and analytics and their award-winning customer care team via email or live chat 24/7. So go check it out. See why so many others love it. See why you're going to love it.